So today is the fourth Sunday in ordinary time. And today we share God's word, which I've entitled, Jesus Speaks and Acts with Authority. Jesus speaks and acts with authority. Jesus is the Son of God. You are also a child of God. And if Jesus had that authority by virtue of being the Son of God, by virtue of being God, then that authority, we should also possess it so that we can speak and act the way Jesus did. Now let's understand the meaning of the word authority. Simply put, the power, the right to give others or to make decision as well as to enforce obedience. So the person with the right, with the power to give others, that person who gives the others has authority. And that person who has that power has authority. And when he says something, that decision should be obeyed. Now let's begin with the first reading that we have from the book of Deuteronomy. At that time, at a place called Horeb, God spoke to the people of Israel, and he spoke to them with great fire, with thunder, with earthquake. And the people were afraid that when God speaks to them in that sense, when they look on God in that sense, they would die. So they pleaded with God through Moses that, God, don't speak to us this way again. Because when that happens, all of us will die. And as a response to this request, God told Moses that, I will raise a prophet from among your kinsmen. And that prophet, I, the Lord, will put my words in his mouth. And when I put my words in his mouth, he shall tell the Israelites all that I, the Lord, had commanded him. So God is telling Moses to tell the Israelites that he's going to raise a prophet for them. And that prophet will be raised by God. And when that prophet comes, he will speak the words of God. And whatever word he speaks, we are supposed to obey that word. That is why we said in the responsorial psalm that if today you hear his voice, harden not your. So why have you hardened your heart this morning? So that is what God told Moses to tell the Israelites. And he says that if any man will not listen to him, I myself will make that man answer to me. So when you hear God's word and you don't listen to that word, one day we will answer. One day, God will ask you, why did you hear my word and you didn't answer or you didn't obey my word? That's why I repeat. We said that if today you hear his word, his voice, we are not going to harden our hearts. So soften your hearts this morning. The prophet we are talking about is no other person than Jesus himself. That's what happens in the gospel. He went to a place called Capernaum. And the first thing he did was he entered the synagogue, the assembly where they meet to share God's word. And when he went there, he preached God's word. And the people were surprised. They were confused. How does this man speak this way? He doesn't speak like our normal scribes, our normal teachers. But he speaks with what? With authority. He speaks with authority because God has put his word in his mouth. Because he is God. That is why he was able to speak. And to speak with that authority. Again, in that same synagogue, there was a certain man who was also filled with unclean spirit. And Jesus was able to exorcise, or was able to cure this man. And do you know what happened? He said to the evil spirit, that the evil spirit told him that, I know who you are, the Holy One of God. And Jesus asked him to shut up, be quiet, come out of him. And that spirit, unclean spirit, obeyed the voice of Jesus. So Jesus here indicates to us that he has authority even over unclean spirit. That is why the unclean spirit what? Obeyed him. And they said in the end, the people in the synagogue said, a completely what? New teaching in the spirit of authority. And he gives orders to unclean spirits and they obey him. Do you remember the song? Nipa bemponi na then infamaya then. So just that session, not all oh, that session. Miss Nipa ben 1 2
Onipa beni, onipa benina, oka sama frama and frama tedi. Oka sama frama. Oh, oka sama frama. Oh, onipa benina, oka sama frama, and frama teddy, onipa benina, oka sama frama.